Welcome folks, Matsimus here with some more military vehicle reviews, and oh my god, it's a vehicle with wheels. What the hell is going on? Normally I talk about tracked vehicles. Well guys, this vehicle is very impressive, and it is pretty much a tank in my eyes because it is a very formidable tank destroyer. It is the Centauro 2. Now this vehicle is a fire support vehicle, a very interesting one. Kind of always brings me back to the, the LAV series and the Striker series, the M1128 vehicle, which is again a highly impressive vehicle. This is the Italian version of that, and I must say, in terms of it being able to engage tanks, it's definitely a formidable asset on the battlefield, and one of which we are going to talk about today. Now, as usual, when I do military reviews, I go over a bit of an overview of the vehicle, its technical specifications, and the things it can do, and then finally I'll end on how I feel about the vehicle overall. So first of all, let's talk about a little bit of its history. Now, the vehicle itself is obviously based around the original Centauro 1 version. Now, this video is actually going to be focused on the 2 because I'd like to try my best to keep up with the most current vehicle out there today. So, the Centauro 2 fire support vehicle is a next generation of the original vehicle Centauro. It has a revised 8x8 chassis and is armed with a more powerful 120mm gun. So pretty much, guys, this is running on par with the armaments of main battle tanks today, for instance the Ariete, which I have done a video on, guys, so please feel free to go check that out. It is also better protected than the original variant and has a number of other improvements. The Centauro 2 was jointly developed by IVECO and OTO Melara to meet an Italian Army requirement development commenced in 2010. The first prototype was ready in 2015 and it was publicly revealed in 2016. So guys, this vehicle is fairly new in terms of it being brought to the public's eye and the military usage. The Italian Army plans to obtain 74 of these new fighting support vehicles. Currently, the Italian Army reported operating a total of 300 original Centauro B1 fire support vehicles armed with the smaller 105mm gun. So that's rather interesting, guys, that they're actually upgrading the main armaments from the 105 to the 120, which I think is going to be integral to most vehicles nowadays. 105, guys, just isn't enough for some of the armor packages that are coming out, and we're all quite well aware that the gun just isn't really that formidable in engaging sort of the up-armored vehicles that are coming out today. The Centauro 2 is intended to carry out tactical reconnaissance, fire support of combat units, and territorial defense tasks. Now that's quite an interesting description there, because the vehicle is multi-role. Now a lot of people, when they think of this vehicle, they think of it as a tank destroyer. Now that is being given its name for quite some time, since the day one it came out, being able to engage tanks as a tank destroyer. Well, sadly guys, that kind of definition of tank destroyer doesn't really exist so much anymore, because at the end of the day this vehicle isn't any more up-armoured / given more armament than a standard main battle tank, and normally a tank destroyer is being given firepower to actually overpower any kind of tank armour that is available, and we clearly know that the 120mm gun is still not going to be completely effective against certain potential targets, so it's not such a tank destroyer, which is why it's interesting to hear that yes, it is a fire combat support unit, but it's also used primarily for reconnaissance and territorial defense tasks. So these vehicles can be placed from long distance and being able to cover large swaths of land, or to just go and find the enemy, which is really interesting because this is how I think reconnaissance should be going more nowadays. I think reconnaissance should be given more firepower at their demand if they need it, and this vehicle clearly fits that criteria. Being able to find the enemy is fantastic, but if things really did go wrong, it would be nice to be able to utilize that main armament to actually get some rounds downrange to pull out from. Also, if they're on a reconnaissance mission, it's nice to be able to use the asset and change roles very, very quickly. For instance, some of the reconnaissance elements that the British Army are utilizing, or have utilized, are very small, quick, agile vehicles, and that's fantastic for reconnaissance. But this vehicle is quite agile. I wouldn't say it's small, it's rather large, but its speed with its wheels are giving it quite a bit of punch. But once the enemy is found, if it was a small group of enemies, this vehicle could actually engage them and continue moving and produce more reconnaissance. Whereas, something like a CVLT scimitar would only be able to, self-defend itself against BMPs, some infantry and such, and then it has to leave. This vehicle could potentially engage heavily armoured targets and continue rolling looking for more. So that's really nice to see, kind of a multi-role vehicle. And I think that's going to be the future, guys. I really do. I think this is going to be a lot more apparent for modern militaries now, and I think the Italians have got this right, and I'm surprised that, other armies aren't focusing on this a little bit more. So the vehicle can escort convoys and be used for long road patrol missions, which, as I mentioned, long because this vehicle has a very high range with its wheeled base. Once in service with the Italian Army, the Centauro II will operate with medium brigades alongside the Freccia infantry fighting vehicles, and associated combat vehicles based on the similar 8x8 wheel chassis. The fire support vehicle is one of the most capable in its class today. Most other vehicles are limited to their 6x6 chassis and carry a smaller 105mm gun. As mentioned before, the US-built M1128 Striker mobile gun system is placed with this 105mm rifle gun and has an auto-loader, which is a very formidable and impressive vehicle, but it's nice to see that this vehicle is actually upgraded to the main, bigger armament. The Centauro II provides the same firepower as nearly all most modern main battle tanks. It is fitted with a OTO Melara hit-fact turret, armed with a 120mm L45 smoothbore gun. This high-pressure gun is unrelated to the Rheinmetall 120mm gun used on most Western tanks, though it is compatible with standard NATO 120mm tank rounds. It is fitted with a very efficient muzzle brake, which is significantly reducing the recoil, which is quite apparent on a vehicle that has a wheelbase and suspension system like this, because unlike a heavy tracked vehicle, guys, this gun firing really does produce quite a rocking sensation on the vehicle, which is going to be potentially making it a little bit more difficult for the commander and gunner to actually fire on targets. It is worth noting that the 120mm gun was mounted on the original Centauro before, with the 120mm gun. However, depending on customer requirements, the Centauro II can be fitted also with the 105mm L52 gun. The 120mm fin rounds are able to penetrate 600mm of rolled homogeneous steel armour at a range of 3,000 meters. The new fire support vehicle has got a modern fire control system and the latest generation of optics. It has hunter-killer engagement capability, and the commander uses a panoramic sight to search for targets, which again is very common in all Western main battle tanks. Once the target is selected, the gun is laid onto the target automatically, and the gunner completes all aiming and firing processes. During that time, the commander looks for the next target, and such hunter-killer engagement methods is present on nearly all main battle tanks both east and west. It allows to acquire and engage targets faster. It seems that this fire support vehicle can engage a target within 30 seconds after spotting it. Now, the vehicle can successfully engage main battle tanks and other armoured vehicles, however its level of protection is way lower than that of main battle tanks. Vehicles of this class usually do not engage main battle tanks head on. There is a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun with around 750 rounds of ammunition, and a remotely controlled weapon station armed with a 12.7mm machine gun of around 400 rounds. Alternatively, the remote control weapon station can be armed with a 7.62 machine gun with 1000 rounds or a 40mm automatic grenade launcher. This fire support vehicle has welded steel armour hull and an aluminum armour turret. In a standard configuration, the front arc of the vehicle is protected against 20mm rounds, and all round protection is against 12.7mm rounds and artillery shell fragments. However, the Centauro II can be fitted with composite add-on armour and even explosive reactive armour for much higher level of protection. Now, for the most part, guys, this is not really going to be very apparent, being it's a reconnaissance vehicle. They're not really going to be wanting to replace heavy add-on extra armour because it's just going to slow it down and prevent it from being able to do its job just as quick and as easy as it should be. But with add-on armour, its front arc provides protection against 14mm armoured piercing rounds, while all-round protection is against 14.5mm rounds. The interior is lined with a Kevlar liner which prevents spalling. The chassis has further improved protection against mines and IEDs, and the crew is seated on anti-mine seats. The Centauro II is fitted with a jamming system which actually blocks the signals of radio-controlled IEDs. Now, this is quite apparent to most vehicles nowadays, however they're not part of the vehicle integrally. Normally they are added on later on. This combat vehicle is fitted with the NBC protection system and automatic fire suppression systems as standard on most vehicles today. It also has a laser warning receiver which can be set to trigger smoke grenade discharges. Once again, guys, the defense world is upgrading these systems every time when they bring out these new vehicles to be able to give better defense against infrared weapons, anti-tank guided missiles and such. It's really nice to see. The vehicle is operated by a crew of 4, including commander, gunner, driver and loader, and the loader transfers ammunition from the stowage compartment to the autoloader, and loads the gun manually in case the autoloader fails, which is again really interesting to see. It's an auto-loading system but is able to manually load just in case, which I think is something that needs to be improved on modern vehicles today. The Centauro II uses a highly mobile 8x8 chassis. Comparing the original Centauro, it is fitted with a new engine, improved transmission, braking system and control electronics. The vehicle is powered by the IVECO Vector V8 turbocharged diesel engine developing 720 horsepower. The engine is located at the front and is mated to an automatic transmission with 7 forward and 1 reverse gear. Steering is provided on the first and second axles at slow speed, also with the fourth axle. The vehicle is equipped with run-flat tyres and fitted with a central tyre inflation system, which improves cross-country mobility. The Centauro 2 though is sadly not amphibious. So there you have it guys, the Centauro 2 in all its glory, and now my opinion on it. Honestly guys, I think this is the future for most modern battlefield techniques now. I think vehicles being in a wheeled configuration with a heavy armoured turret like this and the armament being so large is very, very important. I think it's something that we're going to see a lot more of. It's cheaper to operate these vehicles guys. It's going to be a lot more cost effective to be able to operate 8 wheels than operating 2 huge steel tracks that are very, very expensive. I think it's very interesting to see these vehicles going into a multi-role too, being able to do reconnaissance and engage targets at the same time. It would be nice to see a little bit more armor on these vehicles, but you can't sacrifice mobility for armor in this specific configuration because it's not what it's designed for. I think Italy have definitely hit a winner here with both mobility and firepower, and yes, it is not a tracked vehicle, and that brings a little tear to my heart because I'm not doing a review on one, but at the end of the day, this is a very formidable vehicle and asset on the battlefield, and I am very impressed with it. Guys, I would love it if you could leave me a comment and a like, and if you are new to my channel, subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful day. All the best, bye bye.